I think we're live.
You think so? About 4 o'clock, eh?
It could be.
Yeah, could be. This is good.
This is Jimmy Doan Show.
Jimmy Doan Show with Jimmy Doan and Counselor Curtis.
That's correct, Counselor Curtis. There's my logo. So, we are brought to you today by sponsor.
Publix, yes. We're not going to... Yeah, you know, it's interesting, and we can talk about that in just a second.
Well, of course.
That was fascinating to see how quickly they caved.
Uh-huh.
Which was, as far as I was concerned, was great.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk
about it in a minute. So today, by the way, today is this is Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
Tomorrow is, let's see, today's the 27th of May, 2018.
Okay.
And tomorrow is Memorial Day, and of course all the soldier people are out there, you know.
The soldier people.
You know, whatever they do, I don't know. So anyway, we've got a bunch of things today to talk about today. One, we can talk about a little bit about the Publix thing.
Uh-huh.
We also have this is a 3-day weekend, but unfortunately, we're lucky. Hurricane season is supposed to begin on the 1st of June. It looks like it might be a day or two early.
Right on time.
Yeah, we've got Hurricane, whatever her name is.
Alberta?
Whatever it is. Alberto.
Like...
Yeah, Alberto.
Okay.
But she's going to, he or she, is that he? I guess it's a he.
It's a he.
He's going to miss us. He's going to go up Pensacola way.
Well, that's us.
Well, you know, it's funny. We had our rain. I mean, right now, we had some rain this morning.
Right.
And we're supposed to get some more. But it's a very slow-moving hurricane. So
right.
Well, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we get quite a bit. But I think it's interesting that apparently the storm season is beginning early this year, which does not bode well. It'll be interesting to see if this year...
It's like global warming, man.
Yeah, global warming. That's right. No climate change for us. Then the other thing I want, as long as we're talking about the weather, I thought it was interesting. I saw a thing the other. We talked about the Hawaii volcano.
Yeah. I
saw a satellite picture. It's like a little minuscule dot on the.
I told you that.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, they were making it think like the whole island was going to sink under lava.
Yeah. No. No.
It's like this little minuscule.
Well, the joke is that the highways are cut off from the mainland.
Right. We are right. Yeah, the highways are cut off. Yeah, from the little island, right? What happened to that highway?
Well, yeah. Yeah, there's no problem. I'm telling you, the whole side of the island there, where the volcano erupts,
yeah,
houses maybe 5,000 people.
Okay.
Probably more like 1,500.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and so. Yeah, there'll be a few homes, a few dozen. This is like the floods we get here at our river, Santa Fe River. Here.
Right, that's true. Yeah, because they also, when that thing floods, they lose everything also.
Right, whoever gets
and of course,
washed gets washed.
Yeah. What's interesting though is here with the river, generally speaking, you have a little warning, and you're supposed to have warning with the lava, but apparently,
you get warning.
I know, but they don't get out. I mean, this one lady they
don't get out at the river either.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And the other one little minor thing, although we don't have to talk about it today, I did go see Solo.
Okay.
With Mrs. Jimmy, and she loved it.
Okay.
It was great. It was a lot of action. And a lot of it didn't make so much sense. But to try and follow it, I mean, when I was looking at the movie. The cuts were 2 seconds long, some of them, and you had to absorb everything, you know, in that 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then they did another cut.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there thinking, what was that all about?
Just a little too quick.
A little too fast for me.
Who was the director, do you know?
Yeah, it was Ron Howard.
Oh, that's right. Well, he stepped in late.
Oh, well, his name was on the
yeah, it's true, but
right
they fired the other guys like not long before the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And Ron came in and saved it. And so
well, it was you know, it was worth it. I mean, of course you know, now finally, of course, our theater is right up here and we get some pretty good movies, and I'm finally a member of the senior, you know, whatever it is, Regal Club or something, so I get a discount. Because the movie prices, you know, when I started off, they were 35 cents, and now they're...
Well, and we should mention our other sponsor, Movie Pass.
Oh, Movie Pass, that's
yes.
Right. Now, they fired back up.
Well, they never went down, really. They changed their pricing policy a little bit, but it's still an excellent deal for what averages out to be $10 a month. You get one movie a day.
Really? A day?
A day. Now you can't go see the same movie twice, but
that sucks.
Yeah, that's a little sucky. But they had to do that because what was happening is people were passing around their passes to their buddies.
Yeah,
and so it was people were
see,
cheating.
Now I can tell you right now, this movie Solo is one that you have to see twice.
I mean, well, yeah, well, it sounds like it.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
sometimes it's that sort of Bourne. The Bourne movies, what ruined action movies, as far as I'm concerned.
Another one coming up. No, Mission Impossible. Yeah, another one's coming up.
Yeah, well, Mission Impossible has just become like
well, you say what you
impossible.
want, but the previews were great.
They were pretty good, but again, it has become world's greatest stunts, or stunt impossible. It is not. The mission is like totally plausible at this point.
Okay.
What happens is the stunts are like, what? No, come on.
Well, of course, that was one of the little minor problems with Solo. Is some of the stuff. I mean, you jump off this thing and you go down 10 stories and you get up and walk away.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you better be using the Force doing that.
Yeah, well, they didn't have the Force. They did. I'm not going to give the spoiler alert, but
not at all.
Huh?
Nobody used the Force in the movie.
Nobody.
They didn't come up against some evil Sith at not one time?
In the last 10 seconds.
Well, jeez, man,
in the last 10 seconds.
That's
they laid the groundwork for. Well, I say they laid the groundwork.
Burying the lead there.
Well, let me tell you, they laid the groundwork. This whole thing on Solo, of course, was young Solo, obviously.
Yeah.
And this is how he met Chewie.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. How he got the Millennium Falcon. Blah blah blah. Went through plus and minus and all this stuff.
This is the origin story. Basically.
It was an origin, right? So the sequel happens to be number 4.
The sequel is the next Star Wars movie or something?
No, they've done the sequel. It was the first Star Wars.
Okay.
It was one that came out in 1977.
Right.
That's the sequel.
Okay.
This was the explanation.
Okay.
For how that came about. So they can't do a sequel. They did it 30 years ago.
Okay. All right.
So, again,
what you're saying is Darth Vader appears right at the end of this.
Well, no, not exactly, not exactly. But I will. But what's interesting is that what does appear actually, because remember now, Darth Vader wasn't Darth Vader, or he was Darth Vader, but in number 4. But what they didn't have until the next one after that was the Sith Lord.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that was there, Mr. Horns.
Ah, okay, yeah.
In the last 10 seconds, Mr. Horns showed up.
Okay, right.
And that was it.
Darth Maul.
Yeah, Darth Maul.
He was in number 3.
Fade to credits.
Okay.
Fade to credits, and that was it. So, I mean, I thought it was because that was like number...
Kind of a missed opportunity, if you ask me.
Well, you say that, but I mean, the movie...
I mean, it's just one of the great elements that you have in Star Wars. It's like... Yeah, why wouldn't you use that? It's the only genre you can use the Force in, and here you have this movie, and you're making a movie, and you're spending $100 million. And
no Force, and
you don't,
and you even wholly had.
It's like I hesitate to ask this, but they did go to hyperspace, did they not?
Yes.
Okay.
They did. And of course, you got, it was all of this stuff. Your mother and I had a big argument. She'd forgotten what Tatooine was, and I said, "Well, this is a checkpoint question."
Oh yeah.
And yeah, right.
Yeah, she's out.
So at any rate, but as I say, they laid the entire foundation. It took the whole movie. It's a 2-hour and 15-minute movie or something.
Mm-hmm.
And but they took the whole movie, and until the very end, they wrapped it up right there at the very end, and you got to see, that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They had some flashbacks that were great. I mean, not some flashbacks. They had some stuff that you could see where it showed up in Episode 4.
Right.
And they had, for instance, on the Millennium Falcon, they played with the dinosaur-y thing, and Wookiee lost.
And ripped somebody's arm.
No, but that was, again, it was a precursor.
Right.
To all of that stuff. So you got to see a lot of that stuff, and it was
all right.
From that standpoint, it was, if you're a fan of the genre, and who wouldn't be, right, exactly. But I mean, if you've seen the '77 movie, or if you've seen the 4, 5, and 6 movies,
seen it,
yeah, right, memorized it, right, just about, yeah. Then this is actually a good prequel.
Oh, I can do all the words to numbers 1 and 2.
Number 1 and 2, or you talking
3 and 4, or 4 and 5?
4 and 5. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. Anyway, so the point is it's worth it. And I was lucky because we took a matinee, and so it was cheaper then. And it was senior this and blah 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 and everything. But the
movie pass.
Well, didn't use the movie pass.
Right. Now I'm just saying movie pass.
Movie pass. We could do that. Now, how do you get that movie pass?
What you do is you go on to your app function on your phone, and you'll find it under there. And I think the app is free, but you do have to have relatively recent software. And then you download the app, and then you can use the app until you get, or they send you a card in the mail. I think you have to use the app eventually. There's some kind of phone-dependent aspect to it. I believe you have to bring your phone within the Wi-Fi range of the theater or something like that.
Right.
To activate it or to purchase your ticket or something like that. But it seems to be very handy and cheap, and my niece is using it to great effect.
Really?
Yeah. So they're happy. They've been to one movie a week for
but like you say, no repeats.
$250 for a movie though.
Yeah.
Instead of $12.50.
So how do you give them a credit card, or what do you do?
Yeah, you have to pay for 3 months in advance.
Okay.
And so they give you it's $30 for the 3 months.
Okay.
So that's not bad.
No, that's not bad. So anyway, let's see. I was just to continue on here.
To get to the actual news of the day.
Actual news.
Did we tell the date today? Did we say?
Yeah, we
date?
did. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the 27th. That's tomorrow's Memorial Day.
Right.
May 27th, 2018.
Oops.
We're going to talk a little bit about the North Korea stuff.
Okay.
And then we're also going to talk. I got a letter to the editor from in the Gainesville Sun that I wanted to mention.
Okay.
And then the public's quote boycott, which I wanted to mention about what and why it's. I guess it's being called off, but the guy David Hogg, of course, is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tommy Robinson. Now, one of the things that is not covered at all here in the States, and it turns out that it's not covered in England either. And this is so what?
I'm listening.
Okay, the Tommy Robinson thing.
Oh well, yeah. Okay. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
It is truly amazing. People don't understand that enshrined in our Constitution, Amendment 1, is freedom of speech.
Right.
They don't have that in England. They don't have a constitution. And the only thing they ever had was the Magna Carta.
Magna Carta, yeah.
And so after that, everything... So they literally can close down free speech. So what they've done, this guy, Tommy Robinson, is a gadfly from hell. I mean, he is...
Right.
You either love him or you hate him.
Okay.
He's ultra-right-wing type guy, and he's been on a mission for a decade to try and un-Muslim his country. He said,
He's like their Tommy Lahren, basically.
Who's Tommy Lahren?
We also want to talk about in a minute. I'll show you. I got a good a slideshow on Tommy Lahren here.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So Tommy Robinson and Tommy Lahren. Okay. Well, anyway, he's been a gadfly. I mean, he's been very in your face about the Muslims and he first brought it out that they were like raping white girls and all this stuff, and they have a group that they call
the rapists.
Well, no, they have a group they call the groomers. And what these people do apparently is to kidnap white girls and bring them into their fold, and they rape them and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The Muslims do. Okay. So anyway, what happened was,
but I mean, you're not saying like all of the Muslims.
Enough of them. It doesn't matter. Let me tell you, they get the bad apple, whatever. They're not turning them in. They're not, and all the other Muslims are not assimilating into the British culture. It's obvious, So at any rate, what happens is they had a huge march, for instance, of the Muslims in Britain. I saw a picture.
Well, as we've talked about many times, I mean, it takes a generation before the assimilation really takes hold.
I don't see the assimilation in this particular case. At any rate, what happened was apparently they caught one of the gangs. The Brits caught a gang, and they put them on trial.
Okay.
So what happened was that Tommy Robinson went outside of the courthouse. Now, there had been a gag order right away that you can't talk about the trial.
Okay.
So what he did was, and this is what was fascinating to me, what he did was he went out and he had a paper that had some information in it about, and it was already out. There was some blurb, and so he was basically reading from the paper. He was very polite. He was out there for an hour or two, and of course, is surrounded by police and everything. And finally, they just hustled him off, and they said, you know, you've been breaking the peace.
He was very polite.
He was.
Did you watch the whole thing?
Yes, I did. There was somebody shoved him.
Okay.
But basically, when they surrounded him, he was very, you know, he went along.
Well, I did see his arrest, and he was very polite during his arrest.
Right.
I'll give him that. Now, what I read. So, what's your beef with this thing? Is that
my beef is this? If this is from the days of the Magna Carta until today, they have basically, this is what tyrants do. They have closed down any news about, first of all, any news about the court. You know, they had a gag order. You can't tell anything about what's going on in the courtroom. Well, after the arrest, they put a gag order on the arrest. And what happened was they hustled him off, and literally within 2 hours, I think it was more like an hour, he was in jail. And he'd gone before a magistrate, and the reason was he had been on probation.
Right. Well, yeah, and when you say jail, you actually mean, technically speaking, he went to prison.
He went to prison
for
13 months. They sent the judge, the magistrate, sentenced him to 13 months in prison for breaking his probation. Now, the probation was on something that was really minor. In this country, I mean, it was like a mortgage thing or something.
It was mortgage fraud.
Fraud, right, it was.
Right, which may or may not be minor. It's probably minor, knowing his situation.
Well, they let him out on probation, so...
Well, and not exactly probation. He had a suspended sentence.
Oh, that's right, suspended sentence.
And so the thing, and that's why he went so quickly from the courtroom to the prison, is because all he did was impose this former sentence. I noticed one of the YouTube articles you sent me, the announcer, the news guy who was reporting on Robinson's arrest, reported it as a violation of English civil rights due to how fast the incarceration had occurred. Obviously, he didn't realize that the incarceration was being imposed due to a prior sentence, which involved a prior trial and prior.
But you know, even so, you should be able to get a hold of your solicitor before you go.
I guarantee he did. I'll bet you he did.
No, he didn't. No. Well, he might have one now.
Well, I'll bet you he had it. Here's what they did. They probably gave him the option. They probably. They had such the upper hand on him when he went in front of that court this time because of his prior involvement, whatever that was.
Right.
That this time could have been handled appropriately, actually. But even if that's the case, as you said, it could be that the prior conviction and sentence imposed upon him was unreasonable to begin with. And it looks as if this guy is being targeted simply because, as you say, he's a gadfly.
Right.
The polite words and that he used. I mean, he was saying please and thank you to all the police officers who were arresting him at the time.
Yeah.
Never lost his cool or did anything stupid like you see so many people do in the face of being arrested by 7 police officers. So one would, I think, could draw the inference from that he's generally a polite person. You know, that he's not out there literally whooping up the crowd into a riot, which seems to be their accusation against him.
Right. Well, again, if you saw, he was pretty much quiet and calm and everything. But here's the main thing: they put a gag order on all of that. So what was interesting was I went as soon as
saying freedom of the press.
Yeah, no. Let me tell you, this is what's funny. If you went to the Daily Mirror or some Brit press thing, you saw a thing on there that said Robinson arrested for something or another. Literally within an hour, that was taken down. No news on it, and the headline was changed to something like activists. Now there were like 10,000 people around that had marched down to 10 Downing Street after this too, or maybe that was today or this morning or something.
10,000?
Yeah, I saw a picture. There was lots of them. Anyway, it started off with about 500, but then they said the crowd really swelled up. And they were, free. They have a thing, free Tommy Robinson and all that stuff. But the point is that what they did was to put a gag order on in England only. Of course, it's the only one they could do on anybody that wanted to describe what happened outside of the courthouse. You know, that he was arrested and how he was arrested, all the films and everything. Couldn't do that. If you put those films on Facebook, they could come and arrest you.
Well, England.
I know, but what I'm saying is people don't realize that there is no freedom of speech. I mean, there is, you know, they have like
over there.
Yeah, over there, right. I mean, here, of course, that would just never happen. You could be out there with a bullhorn, for God's sake.
Well, and we can talk about two ways that it's here. This actually goes to speaks to two of the different stories we can talk about today. One is the Tommy Lahren one,
okay,
which I'll tell you about in a second. Before I do that, that is also the exact same situation with or in a similar way with the Publix protest.
Yes.
Here we have a situation where these people are seemingly allowed to do a die-in Publix. Okay, for everybody who doesn't know, what happened was David Hogg, the Parkland shooting victim survivor or whatever, high school person, organized or participated in the organization of a die-in at Publix, which is basically where a bunch of people go into Publix and lay on the floor with their protest signs
for 12 minutes or something,
however long, and and this is their way of speaking their mind, making their protest.
Right. Now, two things to remember about this.
Okay.
One is this was one of the reasons they took Publix, because Publix had donated some money to the NRA.
Well,
to Adam Putnam.
Right.
Now, a guy who's running for a governor here, and Adam Putnam has made it crystal clear he is a total in 100% in, you know, with the NRA.
Okay, so one of their supported person's issues is against David Hogg. You know, see what I'm saying? Like, Publix probably supports a whole bunch of people.
Though they do. Not only that, they support fairly evenly. There was a list on Facebook of, over the years, they supported a lot of Democrat content.
Well, I would imagine. I mean, this is Publix who... You heard about the summa cum laude cake, right?
No.
So it's graduation time right now.
Right.
A kid was graduating summa cum laude the other day, and his mom ordered a cake from Publix, and they wouldn't write that on the cake.
And the reason was?
They're not putting cum on the cake. They put summa ... laude. I'm not making this up. Yeah, he does.
Well, because it rhymes with sperm or something?
That's it.
Oh, my God.
It's literally why they wouldn't do it. So, okay, so this is Publix. This is like our logo showed. Shopping is a pleasure, okay? This is a clean, well-lighted place. Everybody loves Publix.
Favorite too.
It's awesome. And so they support one of the people they supported. One of his issues is he's pro-gun, and so that's what led to this protest.
Right.
And these protesters are allowed to do this die-in, and from my perspective, this is actually going too far in the concept of protests. This is beyond free speech because they are interfering with the business of Publix. I mean, this is tortious interference with the business. You can't just trespass to make your political point.
Well, that was, of course, and when they were boycotting the Planned Parenthood places, the Supreme Court said you had to stay.
Exactly, yeah. and that same distance rule should apply in this case, from the standpoint of, look, if you want to say they're doing something bad, no problem. Everybody understands that, great, but to go in there and actually interfere with the business, I think, I mean, there's damages there. It's certainly a tort. I would not. I would support it if Publix went after the organizers and said, "You guys are going to have to pay us." And,
well, of course, they caved.
Well, right. Well, of course,
Publix immediately caved.
That's because
and said we have suspended any more contributions until further examination and so forth. So, I mean, but that's how, you talk about a private business that is responsive, even plus or minus.
Right.
These people, they're not about to lose any customers if they can avoid it. And of course, what was interesting was on the Facebook and everything, there were, the number of comments just fell off the page about people who said, I'm going to now shop at Publix twice a week. This guy this is not my friend, and blah, blah, blah. And this is, at any rate, so you know, they obviously the public's administration didn't want to be part and parcel of any kind of a, you know, the center of any kind of a discussion, or you know,
right. Their actual damages were in the tens of dollars or something.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know?
I mean, they laid on the floor for 12 minutes. I think the deal was.
Okay.
That was for each 12 people that were killed.
Well, I love it. Online, there's a picture of a woman like taking the eggs out of the carton, and there's people laying there right underneath her.
Oh yeah.
She's just going about just stepping over them.
Yeah, right.
You know, which is all you can do.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well, I mean, nobody was arrested, right? That I know.
Right. Well, again, like as you said, they were very delicate in their handling of this. Somebody with a little PR sense, instead of calling the cops.
Right.
That's probably what they wanted them to do.
Yeah.
They yeah. But Publix is pretty smooth, so.
No, they are. I mean, you know, and they give to jillions of charities. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, you talk about
the pillar of the community.
Pillar of the community, and it's just amazing.
To go after them is just, I think, is stupid.
It really was. That's what we're talking about. Is the backlash. The backlash on that was very fast and very strong, because I saw comment after comment after comment.
Well, we'll see if
they said this guy David Hogg is over the top. This doesn't, you know.
Clearly, again, it's literally criminal. You can't do that kind of a thing. And this is, I mean, it seems mild, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never defended anybody for doing that kind of a thing, except the closest thing is something like disruption of a school function.
Right.
Which I have defended kids for.
Yeah.
So usually when you make a disruption in Publix, it's for something like a fight or stealing.
Right.
I've defended people for those things, and they just focus on that. You know, maybe they throw in a trespassing charge as well.
Yeah.
But there's no, as they say, tortious interference with business.
Right.
Sort of civil equivalent. But it is, in fact, conversion in the sense of, I mean, they're harming Publix. There's no question.
Yeah, no question. But like you said, they probably lost tens of dollars.
Tens of dollars.
Tens of dollars.
And now, so the other issue that goes straight to is the Tomi Lahren.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
So first, let me show you Tomi Lahren.
Oh, a girl.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what did Tomi Lahren do?
Okay, so
look at this.
Yeah. Now, so Tomi here is our super right-wing advocate. She's on The Flame, I think. She's on, what's that guy's name? Glenn Beck's channel.
Okay.
And she's obviously a babe. No
Stormy Daniels for her.
Well, I mean, she's a super Trump supporter.
Right.
Super right-wing girl. And she does this ranting and raving, where, you know, she goes off on people. Apparently has a few people who don't like her very much.
Detractors?
Just a few. Went out to dinner the other night.
Yes, I remember this.
Okay. Somebody threw water on her.
Right.
I mean, they told her, you know, get out, bitch, blah, 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 blah. Again, this to me, whether you like her, hate her views, whatever it is, I am...
That's a battery.
Well, exactly. It literally is battery. It's crime. You can't just throw... I mean, even if it is water, and I'm presuming it was water.
Yeah,
it could have been a drink or
yeah,
something else. You know, what if it were alcohol? At what level does it become? You know, some ice in there, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you throw the cup with it, I mean, I'm surprised that now we're at the point, and you look at the David Hogg protests here, and this type of reaction. And what you're seeing is a willingness to use violence on behalf of...
Well, apparently she got into it with this, with her threw the water at her.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, she, you know, you can't do that, and apparently, now I could be wrong. You know,
right. I just saw the tail end of the video where she's walking out and gets the water thrown on her. Yeah. I don't know what happened before that, but it doesn't matter as long as it wasn't physical. In fact, even if it was physical, at that point, the confrontation, the physical part of the confrontation, was non-existent before the water was thrown.
Right.
So there was no threat or anything.
No, right.
And so, I mean, but you just, again, like as you said, you can't do that. And I'm surprised at the number of people who chimed in support of
the water thrower.
Yeah. Just on the obviously on the fact that they don't like the content of her speech.
Yeah.
Which is just like, it's like they just really are not accepting the whole concept of.
Well, of course, this has been going on for quite some time. When you look at somebody like Ann Coulter, who has been booed off the stages and stuff.
Well, booed off the stage is one thing.
Well, I mean, kept from even getting on the campus. For instance, they told Ben Shapiro that he was going to be arrested if he showed up.
And but I think that was a private institution that did that, and they basically revoked his. He was invited by a student group to appear. Right. And the university said no, and said it's their right to do that. I mean, they can.
Well, he has never, as he said, as far as private universities are concerned, he's never had a problem with that. He did have a problem with UC Berkeley, I think, or something one time about how he was denied.
Right. Well, I think he considers it differently because they're a state school.
Right. Exactly.
And so he figures that that's a forum sponsored.
We had the same thing here in Florida when the
Richard Spencer
showed up, and of course they buried the place in cops from every agency you can imagine, and basically made it almost impossible for him to speak. And then they let in the protesters in the auditorium who shouted him down.
Yeah, that was the hideously embarrassing part of that, was that our students decided not to use their rhetoric and their intelligence and their knowledge and wisdom to defeat the white supremacist. Instead, they decided to, as you say, shout him down. It was like,
when you hear
shocked.
This, I was blown away. But I mean, this is what a lot of the universities are coming to these days.
Man, if that's true, we're in bad.
Oh, we are. Oh, yeah. No. You got to realize. Think about it. Before you go to a university, you have 12 years of indoctrination. In the regular government-run schools.
You don't say so.
Okay. Well, if you don't say so. All right. Let me.
What else we got?
Okay, the next thing I've got is, this is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The canceling of the summit was this week.
Okay, right.
Donald Trump came out and said, we're not going. Forget it. Call it off.
Right.
And literally 24 hours later, Kim Il-sung, or whatever it was, like this morning or something, or yesterday morning, met with the president of South Korea on the thing again and said, we really need to work on this.
Right.
And that didn't make the news.
Back on.
Back on. Yeah. We're willing to do anything to get this. So that's basically what they said. What Trump had done is to write a letter, very, very congenial, very nice, very polite. This is why I can't come. And of course, what had happened is one of the underlings in North Korea had called Pence a stupid idiot or something. And so they said, well,
right.
under that situation, I'm leaving the table, says Trump.
Uh-huh.
Well, literally within 24 hours, I mean, that was, and everybody was so ecstatic. The neocons especially were saying, John Bolton got to him. Well, not so fast. Not so fast, because it turns out that this part of his art of the deal negotiating, it turns out. Now, again, we don't know, because a lot of the lefties especially are saying, ooh, this is typical North Korean, going to suck Trump in, blah, blah, blah. Well, nobody knows. But this is literally within 24 hours, the tone, one of the tones had changed, but the media, the mainstream media, had figured it's still all, this is all a trick. And but who knows? When the South Korean president shows up there and they're shaking hands and making nice and everything like that, you got to start to think.
Well, that means that he wants to make a deal,
right?
And yeah, look, part of the deal is the walkaway. So
right. Well, the other thing, of course, what squashed a lot of it was Bolton and these other guys, and Pence. I think was it Pence or somebody was over there. And brought up the Libyan deal, which was the stupidest thing you can imagine. This is, see what we did with Libya, and of course you took that.
He's dead.
Yeah, and he's dead because of us. I mean, they dragged his butt through his support, dragged him through, and of course, if I was Kim Jong-un, I would have said, "Wait a minute,
well, that's what they
not
did
the
say.
Deal I want."
Right, exactly.
And so, and of course, what the deal is, and of course, what he had done. Remember, Gaddafi had given up everything.
Right.
He had kowtowed everything, whatever it was, kissed the shoes of the United States, and still got dead. Well, Kim ill on or whatever it is, he says, you know, if that's what you're going on, I'm thinking maybe not so much, and that's smart. So the question now is, because they've asked, I haven't watched the morning shows today or McLaughlin Group or anything, but the deal is that what you know they said. Bolton and those people have said they've got to eliminate every shred of your nuclear capabilities before we even talk about lifting sanctions. And in the meantime, we're going to put on some more sanctions, which, as I mentioned before, have never in recorded history have ever worked, ever, because sanctions are basically an act of war. So that's stupid. But how can I put this? If you know, it's like under duress. If you hold a knife to somebody's throat and say, sign this document, you know, it's not quite legal. I mean, you did it under duress.
Right.
So this is what, to me, what the idea of sanctions are supposed to be, you know, to bring you under, force you to do something that you really otherwise wouldn't do. So anyway, the bottom line is that, don't be surprised if this thing goes forward. So, and Trump came out after this meeting that was on the Panmunjom or whatever the hell it was on the demilitarized zone.
Your Korean is just spot on there.
Yeah, right. No, Panmunjom is the city.
Pyongyang?
No, Pyongyang is up north.
Okay.
No, Panmunjom is where they signed the armistice.
Okay. Okay, maybe it is spot on. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought you were making up.
No. See, I was alive back then. You got to remember.
Okay.
That was a big deal. So I think that's where it was. Anyway, they had signed this quote armistice, which has been in effect for 70 years or however long. Anyway, so now there's been something come out from the Trump people or some other people that have said, well, you know, we may still have a summit. Don't know. If not June 12th, July, August. You know, we don't know. So basically, the door's been opened again.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, our theory or my theory, I think, is our theory was that China has ordered some concessions.
Right.
And so Kim Jong-un is gonna find a way to make those concessions, get something out of it.
Well, somebody said that China has, quote, resumed trading with North Korea. Of course, they're right there on the border, and that's got to
be a lifeline.
This whole thing, yeah. Well, this whole thing is such in flux, you know, literally from hour to hour. But what's fascinating to me is how the mainstream press people report this as they forget about the part that they met on the border. You know, in today's news, none of that was there, and
that's today.
Yeah, I know. So. So the president says the North Koreans talk about their nuclear capabilities, but ours are so massive and powerful that I pray to God we won't ever have to use them now.
Pray to God.
You see that? Yeah, you see that. That'll be sweet. You got anything else?
I got one other thing.
Okay.
And that was the Milwaukee bomb scare situation. So a couple of days ago in Milwaukee, in downtown Milwaukee, at some intersection, there was a suspicious package found.
Okay.
And it was in a duffel bag. A duffel bag is what it was. And so it's sitting there on the corner. And the police taped off a big area. And they're sitting there with the area taped off. And a guy rides his bicycle by the police, goes up to the bag, starts pulling stuff out of it, pulls like 5 or 6 things out of it. You can see that's the majority of the contents of the bag. He then upends the bag and dumps the rest of the contents out onto the ground. And then he throws the bag down onto the ground, the empty bag. You can see it flop there. As he's doing, right as he gets done throwing the bag down, he gets gang tackled by the police.
Okay.
And it looks pretty like he gets the face planted into the cement treatment, basically. Now, here's my point on that is this. So you have the situation, and it's a police standoff. The guy rides out there and diffuses the situation, and he gets tackled. What's happened there? Once the bag is empty, there's no more danger. There's nothing left to fear for anybody.
Yeah.
But the police there apparently were so jacked up that they transferred their fear from the bag onto this guy as though he had something to do with this bomb. Although any reasonable assessment of the situation would be that he clearly did not have anything to do with this package. You know, if it was a bomb and he was the bomb maker, then he was going to be blowing himself up, right? And if it was not a bomb and he was the package owner, then he was just emptying it out. And so either way, he's doing them a favor. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing for them to tackle him for, is what I'm getting at. Uh-huh. But it is just too human at that point. The fear is too ingrained.
The testosterone is flowing.
Man, I mean, and it was obviously...
Adrenaline, everything.
They were unable to stop themselves. And this, I see this transfer of intent, and I look at something else. The other place I see this is like in the gun control situation, where we have, it seems like a group of people look at a person with a gun, and they, instead of seeing a police officer, they see a terrorist. Mm. And you know, if I just said you see a person with a gun, and then I ask you, is that person negative or positive in your mind in some way? You know, has the scale tipped either way just because I said that? And I think there's a lot of people out there who would be like, oh, they were in the super red category and the super evil category. I think to gun control advocates, a person with a gun is much, much, much more like a terrorist with a gun than a cop with a gun.
Okay.
So just an observation. Based on that, but anyway.
So they tackled this guy, and I wonder what the charge was.
Well, the charge is going to be interfering with the police investigation.
Now, of course, all these cops that tackled him have qualified immunity, right?
Oh yeah, this is all. I mean, there's no question that they're not going to be charged with anything, because. I mean, unless they really, really hurt him, unless they hurt him after the fact, like they kept beating him up after that, because they're not going to get charged with taking him down hard. You're totally allowed to do that any time. That's what I tell people all the time. You know, if you get arrested for the simplest thing, part of your arrest can be a face plant into the concrete, and nobody will ever question that. Mm-hmm. And it can even be a debilitating head injury type of face plant, and nobody's going to say, they'll just say, well, what happened? Well, I took him down and kind of hit, a little bit hard on the curb there, And
well, it's interesting because I was listening to a podcast about unqualified immunity, which apparently has to do with prosecutors and judges.
Unqualified immunity?
Yeah. Total immunity.
Total immunity.
Yeah, in other words, if they screw up, even if it's negligence or whatever it is, no charges can be filed. Qualified immunity, of course, is with the police,
right?
And they
have to be acting.
They really have to be,
with correct intent.
That's right. But apparently, even the prosecutors can basically, and this is where this came up, was they just did some DNA tests on some kids, people that have been in jail for 20 years or something. Found out they had nothing. The DNA test proved it was somebody else that had been a suspect.
Right.
But apparently there was exculpatory evidence. They never bothered.
You can't go after the prosecutors for that.
That's what I'm saying. And apparently also the one guy that they wanted to go after was the MA or whatever,
the tester.
Well, the medical examiner.
Right.
And because the medical examiner, they found out, was falsifying a lot of this stuff. And they went back and they said, boy, this is, apparently he did something like 2,000 autopsies a year, which they said the maximum should be around 200. For you to do an autopsy effectively, you just can't do them that fast.
Right.
So, and he was, expert opinion, and he was the go-to guy for the prosecutors, and this was so. At any rate, but what happened was it should have been painfully obvious to the prosecutor that this guy was a fraud, but because he had unqualified immunity, nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to say, in my opinion, I'm just going to guess that I think that even unqualified immunity has some qualifications attached to it, and you could there are some.
Apparently it has to be pretty stringent.
Right. I would imagine.
Really have to be. I mean, I don't know where you'd.
Well, I'm just thinking if they're thinking about charging President Trump.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, you think about it, when you're in Congress, you have pretty much unqualified immunity against anything you say.
Something like that. Well, I mean, what they're trying to get at is stuff like, you're in Congress, you pass a law that does X, and then as a result of that law, somebody dies. They don't want the person coming back and suing the congressman for passing the law.
Well, one of the things you should be able to sue them for is because one of the things that happens with whatever law it is, I don't care if it's local, county, state, or federal, there are always unintended consequences.
Well, that's the whole point.
And generally speaking, the law is the results, the unintended consequences are 180 degrees from the intent.
That sounds a little pessimistic.
That's totally true.
A little cynical.
Totally true. Totally true. I've even written about it. They don't. I'm telling you, you show. What I tell people all the time. I said, show me a government program that has worked as advertised.
Golden Gate Bridge.
Huh?
Golden Gate Bridge.
Golden Gate Bridge. Okay. Well, of course, this is part of the seen and the unseen.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, I guess I got. That's about it for that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I've got one more little thing here. We're getting ready towards the end here.
Mm-hmm.
This was a letter to the editor in today's Gainesville Sun.
Okay.
In response to a May 23rd letter, it is a complete falsehood regarding banks having armed security. And what the guy says that banks have armed security. So
right.
What about teachers? Blah, blah, blah. My main point, however, is that public schools, due to funding being eviscerated for 2 decades, does not apply to teachers with things as simple as chairs for students. Where are the billions of dollars coming from for fences, armed guards, and security upgrades? So what he's saying is that, why on this planet would you start to do security upgrades when you have the school falling apart? And my wife has taught elementary school in Alachua County for 20 years. She scours local websites for free or cheap equipment to adequately furnish her classroom. There are leaky roofs, outdated textbooks, underpaid and overworked teachers, and multiple, quote, portable classrooms on most campuses in the county, and that's true. There's 20 or 30 of them over here at one of those schools. Property owners already voted to tax themselves extra so schools could continue providing basic programs that were victims of state legislators with zero clue as to what it takes to teach and run a school. Well, one of the things that is interesting, at least here, is that fully half of the funding for our government-run schools comes from the government. I mean, not from the local government, from Tallahassee or the feds.
Okay.
And of course, one thing you can count on, I was just talking about this a minute ago, the idea is to educate children. Well, exactly the opposite has happened. I mean, they're not graduating educated, as I've mentioned before. It's fully 60%. Our friend who is an intake advisor over at a community college over here in Putnam County says that fully 60% of the people that come up there to get ready to go in there with and show them the diploma, I need remedial work. And so the question, of course, is what have you been doing for 12 years? I mean, in math and English.
So what's your point, man?
Okay, my point is you're never going to get it unless you privatize
never gonna get what?
You're never, the schools, no matter how much money you put on this thing, you can get all the chairs you want, all the books, new books you want, and so forth and so on. With being government run, it's just gonna fall down again. One of the things that you have found, at least locally here, is the schools literally are falling apart. And one of the reasons is when the local government, plans to upgrade a school or something, they forget about the maintenance part, and so the school basically deteriorates over the years. And then they want to pass a tax.
Wait, what you're saying is a socialist policy over time is doomed to fail due to mismanagement.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
So, our school system is what I would call Venezuela.
There's a bus driver in Venezuela that would vehemently disagree with
Right, exactly. That's right. So at any rate, I just thought it was interesting to see.
And he has just freed one of our guys in a very magnanimous way.
Yes, I saw that. He held for 2 years?
Something like that, yeah.
2 years in a magnanimous thing there. So
that's right. That's worth $1 billion.
Huh?
That's worth $1 billion.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Lord. Okay, well, anyway, that's pretty much all I've got.
Okay, that's all I got too.
Did want to say happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial.
Have a good time on Monday. I did notice that.
Can you say Happy Memorial Day?
I don't know. We're probably not allowed to.
Yeah, I mean that's it's like it's
Merry Memorial Day.
Yeah, I guess you can say like have a good Memorial Day weekend or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's almost over. I tell you, it is interesting because this town has cleared out with people going to the beach. Of course, they're all going to get rained on.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody takes advantage of leaving for the 3-day weekend.
Well, it makes getting a restaurant invitation either what do you call it? Reservation. Easier.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, this was the show, and like us if you can.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do?
Send us some notes.
We may not be on Facebook today, but we're going to be next week. It looks like we'll let you know about that. We'll do a notification and a little advertisement about it or something.
Sounds good to me.
So, thanks for tuning in. Leave comments if you feel like it too.